All right, I know you probably snoozed through history class. Let's be real, we all did. But hang on a second. What if I told you they skipped all the good parts? Like, did they ever mention an ancient iPad that tracked the planets thousands of years before telescopes even existed? Or how about literal batteries? Yeah, you heard me, batteries, found buried in the ground in ancient Mesopotamia. And those giant stone blocks? The ones so perfectly cut you can't even slide a razor blade between them? The official story is they were carved with primitive tools. Right. Just a hammer and a whole lot of positive thinking. Are we really buying that? Some academics say, nah, it's all just a coincidence. Meanwhile, others are whispering that something's been hidden from us. So what are we looking at here? The lost genius of an ancient civilization? Or proof that we got hit with the biggest history spoiler of all time? In this video, we're diving deep into every mystery the history books just decided to label as unexplained. And by the end of it, you might just start thinking that your boring history class was actually the biggest conspiracy theory of them all. Okay, so for our first piece of impossible tech, let's take a trip back to 1901. You're a sponge diver exploring a Roman shipwreck off the coast of Greece, and you pull up, well, this. A crusty green lump of junk. Seriously, it looks like something your grandpa left out in the rain for 50 years. So, naturally, they haul it to a museum, shrug, and toss it in a drawer where it's forgotten for the next half a century. Classic. But then, someone gets the brilliant idea to X-ray this ugly rock. And what they find inside completely blows their minds. It wasn't a rock, it was gears. A mind-bogglingly complex system of dozens of precision-engineered bronze gears. That ugly chunk of junk, it was a computer. An actual 2,000-year-old analog computer. And this thing didn't just tell time. It was the ancient world's laptop. It could track the planets, predict solar eclipses down to the hour, and even had a countdown timer for the next Olympic Games. Now, here's the part that should break your brain. After this device was lost, humanity would not build anything even remotely this complicated for another 1,500 years. Let that sink in. So, how did they do it? Where did this incredible technology come from? And the real kicker, if this one survived, what else is still down there, just waiting to rewrite everything we think we know about the past? All right, if you thought the ancient computer was wild, you might want to sit down for this one. The next item in our Wait That Can't Be Real collection is a 2,000-year-old battery. No, I'm not joking. So the scene is this. It's the 1930s, and archaeologists near Baghdad dig up this cute little clay jar. Inside, a copper cylinder and an iron rod. Let's be honest, it looks like a busted piece of plumbing. The kind of junk you'd find in your grandpa's garage and have no idea what to do with. But a few curious scientists looked at this setup and thought, hang on, this looks suspiciously familiar. So they built a replica, poured in a little vinegar just to see what would happen, and zap. The thing produced a current. Actual, legitimate electricity. And that's when the theories went wild. Were they using it to electroplate cheap metals with gold for some ancient bling? Maybe a little low-voltage shock therapy for headaches? Or were they charging their eye stones? Okay, maybe that one's a stretch. But here's the real head-scratcher. If they had batteries, where's the rest of the kit? Where are the wires? The ancient light bulbs? Where's the user manual? We have a power source, but absolutely nothing for it to power. So was this just a quirky, one-off science fair project that someone buried? Or is this little pot the ancient equivalent of finding a single AA battery in the middle of the desert? A tiny clue pointing to a much, much bigger technological world that we have completely missed. All right, for this next one, I've got a little weekend DIY project for you. Your mission: go cut a block of solid granite. Your only tool? A copper chisel. Go on, I'll wait. Still at it? Yeah, I didn't think so. Even our modern diamond-tipped power tools have a hard time with granite. And yet somehow, thousands of years ago, ancient builders were slicing through it, and even harder stones like basalt and diorite. like it was a block of warm butter. And we're not talking about rough, choppy cuts here. We're talking about multi-ton blocks carved with such insane precision that you still can't slide a razor blade between them. You can find this stuff everywhere: Egypt, Peru, India. It's a global phenomenon. But here's where it gets really weird. The cuts aren't just straight, they show complex geometry, perfect right angles, and even tool paths that look eerily similar to something you'd see from a modern CNC machine. And the smoking gun, the drill holes, perfectly circular holes, sometimes drilled feet deep into solid rock with spiral grooves inside. You know, the kind of grooves left by something spinning at an incredibly high and consistent speed. The official explanation for all this? Get ready for it. Oh, they just patiently rubbed it with sand and water. Right. To create thousands of flawless cuts and holes in one of the hardest materials on Earth over and over, with zero margin for error. Does that honestly sound plausible to you? So at what point do we stop calling it patience and start calling it what it really looks like: lost technology? All right, so we've established that ancient cultures could cut stone with almost supernatural precision. But now we get to the final boss level, stacking those stones. Because it's one thing to carve a perfect block, it's another to play a real-life game of Jenga with it on a god-tier difficulty setting. Let's start in Peru. You're looking at the Coricancha Temple. Massive, perfectly curved walls built with zero mortar. And get this, they're basically earthquake-proof. Major quakes have turned the colonial cathedrals built on top of them into a pile of expensive rubble. But the original Inca walls, they barely even budge. Think that's impressive? Just up the road is Sacsayhuaman. Look at these blocks. Some of them weigh up to 200 tons. That's like stacking 100 cars on top of each other. How did they move them up a mountain and lock them into a perfect zigzag puzzle with no modern cranes and supposedly no written plans? Ask a modern engineer to do that today, and they'd just laugh, then probably cry. And if your brain isn't broken yet, let's head to the Ellora Caves in India. This isn't a building. This is an entire multi-story temple complex that was carved downwards out of a single solid piece of mountain. Think about what that means. There's no undo button. One wrong move, one misplaced chisel hit, and an entire pillar is ruined forever. That's not construction, that's playing Minecraft in hardcore mode with a mountain. And of course, we have to talk about the GOAT, the Great Pyramid. Let's forget the aliens for a second and just talk logistics. We're talking about 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as a space shuttle, lifted hundreds of feet into the air. The project management, the supply chain, the sheer mathematical precision. We still have heated debates about how they pulled it off. These aren't just buildings, they're statements. They are massive stone puzzles that stare back at us and seem to mock our so-called modern superiority. So you have to ask yourself, who were they trying to impress this much? Gods, kings, or were they leaving behind a permanent message for the future? One that says, we were not as primitive as they told you we were. Okay, I can hear some of you typing in the comments already. Cool buildings, neat gadgets, but it's not proof. It's all just a bunch of coincidences. And you know what? Fair enough. One weird battery or one impossible building on its own doesn't rewrite history. But what happens when the coincidences just keep piling up all over the world? Let me ask you this. How do you explain ancient cultures, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, all mysteriously deciding to build the same stuff? I'm talking about pyramids. You've got the famous ones in Egypt, but then, boom, pyramids in Mexico and Sudan and Cambodia and China. It's like they all got the same architectural memo, but the internet hadn't even been invented yet. The textbook answer? Oh, a triangle is just a really stable shape. Okay, sure, fine. But that doesn't explain why so many of these completely separate cultures were also obsessed with aligning their most important structures to the exact same star systems, especially Orion's belt. Why Orion? And how about the math? Why do we see complex constants like pi and the golden ratio encoded in their architecture centuries, sometimes millennia, before we officially discovered them? And then there's the art. You start seeing these carvings from all over the world, showing figures holding strange handbags, or sky gods in what look like flying machines. Now, am I saying they were scrolling through ancient TikTok? Number. But at some point, you have to admit, coincidence starts to feel like a pretty lazy explanation. It's like they were all working from the same source code, a global blueprint left behind by a single forgotten chapter in human history. So you're left with two choices. Either every ancient culture on Earth was bizarrely unoriginal and independently had the exact same genius ideas, or we're looking at the scattered echoes of a worldwide technological culture, so old that it's been almost completely erased from our memory. Here's the part that really keeps me up at night. We're not just talking about old stones and dusty relics, we might be talking about entire systems of knowledge, gone. Like, what if the reason we can't recreate these feats today isn't just a lack of tools, but a lack of understanding? So, think about it. How much knowledge has been lost to war, colonization, natural disasters? The Library of Alexandria alone supposedly held hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, wiped out in a single blaze. What else did we lose? Blueprints? Maps? Scientific principles that could have launched us centuries ahead? And what if, just what if, some of that knowledge wasn't destroyed, but hidden? Passed down through secret societies, buried in coded texts, or sealed away in temples we still haven't unearthed. It sounds like a movie plot, I know. But then again, history has a funny way of surprising us. Every few decades, we dig something up that shouldn't exist. A tool, a tablet, a tomb that makes us question everything we thought we knew. So here's the real mystery. If we've already lost this much, what else might be waiting to be found? So, after everything we've seen, ancient computers, mysterious power sources, granite cut like butter, and pyramids popping up like it was some kind of global construction trend, maybe it's time to admit, history isn't just missing a few pages. It's missing an entire chapter. A chapter that might explain not just where we came from, but what we were really capable of. And if that knowledge existed once, could we rediscover it? Or has it been lost for good? Either way, the next time someone tells you ancient people were primitive, just smile and ask them if they've ever tried cutting granite with a copper chisel. Thanks for watching, legends. If this video made you question what you thought you knew, give it a like, subscribe to Epochlight, and drop your favorite ancient mystery in the comments. Who knows? Maybe your theory is closer to the truth than you think.